What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dante, Vulnerable Truth. So, today I wanted to talk about something. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the reason I chose the name Vulnerable Truth is because, growing up in Chicago, you're really not taught to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? And you don't even let anybody into your world. You know what I mean? So I'm breaking that stigma, and that's why I chose to name my podcast Vulnerable Truth. So today I want to give some real vulnerable truth. So I got my okay to go back to work next week. And I'm terrified. I felt a certain kind of way because I've never been afraid of anything. You know what I mean? Like, not like this. Like, I've never been afraid of anything that would, to the point where my anxiety starts to build. And the more and more I talk about work, the closer I get to going back, the more my anxiety builds. But I am the type of person that will welcome what I'm going through so that I can learn how to deal with it. But this is, I welcome this as well. But this is a different kind of fear. It's terrifying to me to actually go back to work and climb those ladders, especially with the possibility of what I originally thought couldn't happen, did happen, me falling off the pole, the strand breaking. Going back to work is scared the crap out of me. And, right now I pray on it. I put confidence into myself because I do believe in myself that I can overcome anything. But this one is, it's rough. One day last week, my wife and I had a conversation about it, and I started crying, like tears crying, and that's because of the fear I have and the anxiety I have with going back, and this fear being, unfamiliar territory for me. But shit, the last 4 months has been unfamiliar territory for me, and I've made my way through most of it. So I'm confident that I'll begin to settle in my groove once I get back to work. A few other things besides climbing a ladder that scares me is that fear hindering the type of technician I'll be. So before I left, I was one of the technicians that you were seeing after it's been 4 or 5 technicians at a house, can't nobody find a problem, or we got a customer that want to leave. And I would get sent, to save that customer, to fix the problem. And, I am worried that I won't be able to be that same technician. And I know the reason this bothered me is because no matter what I'm doing, I want to give it my all. No matter what it is, I want to give it my all. And I feel like if it's something that's stopping me from you know, working to my capabilities that I know I'm capable of, uh, that'll be a problem for me. And one thing that I'll say is, I'm hard on myself, but I feel like I have to be, uh, because it keeps me moving. It keeps me pushing. But it's not really something that I want to get over like right now. You know what I mean? Because there's a fear there for a reason, and that reason being that I fell and broke a wrist and got PTSD and got anxiety. I know where the fear stems from, but I don't want it to affect me too much while I'm working. I do want to deal with it. I want to give myself enough time to deal with it, adequate time to deal with it. I don't want to rush into it and, put what I'm feeling in my back pocket. I had enough of those days in my life, so I'm refusing to go back that way. Yeah, so my last round of therapy, it was a work hardening program. So it was supposed to be 8 weeks. I finished in 5. My strength in my left arm when I started was very weak. So I had trouble lifting 5 pounds once I was done with like my regular physical therapy. And toward the end of my work hardening program, with both arms, I was able to lift over 100 pounds. And that was at 30 or 35 pounds before. So like the physical part of this recovery has been so easy. So easy. And I'm tough on myself because I do the work to try to understand my mind, like what makes me tick, why I think this way, why I think that way, my biases. And, when all of this came along, it threw me for a loop. And then now that I'm at this point, I'm comfortable with everything else. The PTSD, the anxiety, I'm comfortable with all of that. And I manage it well. Except when I'm talking about going back to work. I've never had a fear so strong that I cried tears, that it was an emotional conversation for me. And now I'm experiencing that. So, yeah, right now it's just something I'm dealing with. Something that's going on with me is not getting the better of me. I refuse to let that happen. But it is something that's holding a piece of my brain and a piece of my feelings, and it just have a chunk of me that is holding hostage. And I'll be glad when I can release that hostage. But I know it takes time. One thing this whole process has taught me is that recovery takes time. Especially when you're dealing with mental issues as a result of whatever's happened. And I have welcomed that, and I've taken it on. I wanted to go, when I first got injured, I wanted to go back to work right away. It hurt my feelings that the doctor told me it'll be months before I can lift the ladder. And I was scheduled to go back in October. And then it got pushed back to November. Then it got pushed back to December. And after the pushback in October, I became comfortable with it being pushed back farther, because that was just letting me know that there was some more work that needed to be done. And I was okay with that because I want to heal as much as possible before I go back to work. But 60% of your income is hard, to say the least. And, that kind of pissed me off too, because you get hurt at work, you go on workers' comp, and they give you 60% of what you was making. But if you get hurt at home and go on short-term or long-term disability, you get 100% income for like 6 months or something. So I think that's a little backwards. But my wife work, I have a community that's helped me. And, we're not hurting. We're not struggling that bad. I wouldn't even say we're struggling. It's not as comfortable as it was when I was working. But we are doing okay, and that's the honest truth. So I am ready to go back to work. But I am dealing with this fear right now. And I don't know what to do with it yet. But, the more you work on things, the more solutions start to come into play. The more they start to show themselves. It's nothing that I necessarily need to do like right away. I need to let it take its course. I need to go back to work and see how my body and my brain feel with me being back in the field. With me being around customers or ladders or, just working alone. So that is what I am focusing on, just letting it take its course. But this is something I haven't admitted to many people until recently, until after my wife and I had that conversation. Because she called me out about speaking a vulnerable truth, and it was something inside of me that kept me from saying it because of how I look at myself, with me not being afraid of anything, well, until now. But I didn't know how it felt to be afraid of things like that, So, yeah, this something, it may just take me going back to work and getting comfortable again. Or it may not ever work, I have to keep my mind open to all possibilities because I don't want to force myself to do something that my body can't handle. It'll only hurt me more, and then trying to do the job and, I'm feeling like this, it'll also put me at a greater risk of being hurt again. So, my mind is open and I'm letting nature take its course. I'm letting my body do the adjustment work. I'll just let it come to me. I'm not going to force anything in. Like, I'm not going to tell myself, like, oh, you can do this. Because there's a good possibility that I can't. I am not going to tell myself that when I go back to work, right out the gate, I'm going to be 100%. I'm going to be the exact technician that I was before I left. So I am being realistic about what can possibly be, the possible scenarios. before I left, I was in the top. Well, I was at the top of the running list for a supervisor position. And I don't know if I'm still at that level, because with me being off for 4 months, it's giving other technicians time to step up into the role that I was doing, which is fine. I want everybody to be successful, and I'm okay if I don't get it, but I'm more okay if it goes to somebody that's deserving of it, and if I can get myself back into this job, like meaning mentally and everything, then I don't have any doubts that I'll get back up to where I need to be in the runnings for supervisor positions again. However, my mind is also open to other possibilities. I've started the podcast. I've created a website, vulnerabletruths.com. That's truths with an S. I've started mentoring one kid, but it's a start. I volunteer in the district. I'm very familiar with my community. So everything that I just named opens, to me, it opens a lot of doors, and I just need to figure out how to get to those doors so that I can push them all the way open. And I'll get there as well. I'll keep working. I won't stop, because mental health advocacy is something that I believe in, like, wholeheartedly. So no matter what happens, that is something that I'll always pursue. Hopefully I can go into business for myself and be a mentor, counseling, mental health advocate, be those things that mean a lot to me. And it's weird, because when I started working at the job that I have, Comcast, I told everybody that that's where I will retire from, because I like that job so much. It was the only job that I've had where I wouldn't even know I was getting a raise, and somebody would come and say, like, hey, you progressed. So I hit a lot of my progressions, like, right away. So and they're not stingy with money. So I've made a nice amount of money, or like my dollar amount is decent, it's good. But I would like to be able to substitute that income with something that I really want to pursue. Being a mental health advocate changed lives. Being a mentor changed lives. Just being there for people changes lives. And, I want to be a part of that. I've been told I can't save the world. And that's fine. I know I can't save the world. But I can be a part of changing the world. And that's what I'm looking forward to. That is my end game. I would like to have my own business doing those things, and getting people to get comfortable with telling their stories. One thing I've noticed about podcasts is that if you look for it, like there's podcasts all over the place about mental health issues. But it's still not enough conversation going around in our communities about it. We need more people to find that safe space, that safe spot, to have that conversation with somebody that they can trust. because if you're not willing to tell your story, the last thing you'll do is tell somebody that you don't trust about what you're going through. In my experience, the first people that you usually tell are people that can relate to you. People that's been through it, people that have the experience. But we need to figure it out, a way to get these conversations started. We need to figure out a way for each community to have a safe place that people know they can go to get help, to talk about their stories, to not be afraid, to not be ashamed, and to not worry about how people will look at them. And I actually think that more people are opening up to people having mental health issues. I don't think that it's the same as when I told somebody, it's like, oh, well, you stupid for thinking about killing yourself. I think people are more open to accepting that these things are real, and that's a good start. But if those aren't the people that's going through these situations, it's not doing us any good, So hopefully by sometime next year, there'll be a place here in Chaska, Minnesota that people can call or people can visit to talk about their stories, to get help, and I say it's unprofessional because I haven't went to school or anything, but I'm a firm believer in there's nothing that school can teach me about my experiences and how I've dealt with them. I believe experience is the best teacher all the time. But we need to figure out that safe place for everybody. Not even just mental health issues, like racism, bullying. Those things are everywhere in our country. Racism and bullying. Kids are affected by this heavily. So, yeah, if you're listening, I appreciate it if you leave me a message, comment, feedback. I always like feedback. I had some really good feedback yesterday about how somebody made it to over 1,000 views in a couple months. And I haven't made it that far yet. But, when I ask questions, it's because I really want to learn. I really want to know. And one thing that I got out of the conversation yesterday is that I need to work a little bit harder at getting myself exposed, putting my podcasts out there, putting them in places where posts will be seen. So that's my goal with that. I'm going to keep working. Oh, I'm also running for school board of my district next year. So that's also something that's in the work. And I love the idea of that because it'll give me a direct line to have conversations with the schools, with the students, with the teachers, with the principals, with the deans. It'll put me in a better position than what I am now to have more conversations. And that's not saying that I can't have those conversations now, because I do. I go into the schools now, I speak with principals, I speak with teachers. But I would like to do it more. I would like to do it more. And I think being a part of the school board is a direct line in, and all I want to do is help. I don't want to cause anybody any harm or anything. And I don't think that that's something that'll be on anybody's mind that know me. But yeah, I want to help. I want to help our students in this district. I want to help our community become better. Anything can be better, and I want to keep pushing things toward better. I want things to keep getting better. We can't settle for good. We can't settle for okay. And if people say, well, it's better now, then let's work toward great. Let's work toward great. But if you're listening, feedback, comments, I would appreciate it all. Especially like if you have mental health issues or if you deal with mental health problems. Share with me some of the things that you use to cope with it or to deal with it. Let me know if you need help dealing with it. I'm always willing to talk about the things that I go through, and I will literally have a conversation with anybody. I'll talk to anyone. So you don't have to worry about any judgment on this end. That's not a part of who I am, and that's not a space that I want to create, So I appreciate all the listens, and I appreciate the help that I've been getting. And you know what? I appreciate life, and everything that it throws at me, everything that it gives to me, I'll take it. And I appreciate it, because it'll create a stronger Dante. It'll always create a better version of myself. But I appreciate you guys for listening, and I thank you. Oh, and today is Friday, I think. Have a good weekend if you're not working the weekend. If you are working the weekend, I'm sorry. My schedule was Wednesday through Saturday. So when people would say happy Friday, it felt like they wanted to fight or something. But if you're not working, have a good weekend. If you are working, I hope that you have a productive weekend at work. I want to tell everyone happy holidays. These are times for family. And I encourage everyone to spend time with their families, if you have that family. If not, you can leave me a message and you could be a part of our family. You could be in China and we'll have you on speakerphone and involve you with whatever we're doing here. But I appreciate everyone for listening. Hope everyone has a good day. And just thank you. I appreciate all of you. Take it easy.